I think we got one solid setup that's going to be strong. You can actually pick these up pretty reasonable. Welcome back to the channel, and yes, we are still working on the world's smallest off-road record. If you guys are familiar with the last video, then you know we got the motor ready to go. I wanted to bolt it to the transmission, but I had to order a part, so I'm waiting on that part to connect these two. Therefore, we're not going to put in the motor and transmission today. We have another project, part of this drivetrain, and I think you guys are gonna like this. Now, any transfer case nerds out there like me know what this is? Bam! I'll let you guess while I clean this up before we bring it in. Well, heidi ho. Now, if you guessed LT230, you hit it right on the nose. But I have a feeling that most of my American viewers probably weren't sure what transfer case this was. Mostly because transfer cases like that come in Land Rovers and some Range Rovers, and, well, we just don't wheel those as hard around here in the US. But that doesn't mean that this case isn't insanely strong and doesn't have an amazing aftermarket. And if you guys remember where I got my Land Rover for the Matt's Off-Road games, it was Pull Apart Auto. That is also where we got this transfer case. So after you watch this video and you're looking for one of these cases, maybe check out Pull Apart Auto, because that's where I got mine. Now you're probably asking yourself, why did I choose this transfer case over the gobs of transfer cases we have? And I can answer that question. Number one being, we got to be able to fit it inside of here. We don't have a lot of frame rail spacing, and therefore I got to have something that's small enough to fit inside there. Like, we all know that a 205 is an amazing, durable, strong transfer case. The only problem you really have with it is its size and weight. I mean, it's made to hold a V8, but it's a big cast housing. It's heavy. If you want to adapt it to a 3-to-1 low range, twin stick, things like that, it really starts adding up on the cost, especially if you're going to try to get it lighter. This thing is an aluminum cast housing, so it is already quite a bit lighter than a 205, but yet can handle the power of a V8. Lord knows what we put our Land Rover through. With the all-wheel drive function, you can actually put a cutting brake in the rear and it will do a front dig for you. And it comes stock with 3.32 to 1 gears in it. So it's already got an extremely low gear ratio right out the gate. Like, very few cases, everybody likes the MP231 because it came with a 2.72, and like a 205 is like 1.96 or something like that. So having 3.32, the higher the number, the lower the gears are. Having a 3.32 gear ratio in here is huge. And even though we don't really know it here in the US, the aftermarket for these things is absolutely insane. Not only do they make LS adapters to Land Rovers, but they make a 6L80E, the Chevy transmission, a real popular Chevy transmission adapter, to these transfer cases. It's also an extremely strong gear-driven case, and it's a lot more obtainable than like a Dana 300. And with a Dana 300, I would still have to put in lower gears, I'd have to put in heavy-duty outputs, and I'd have to put in a twin stick if I wanted the ability to do a front dig. And top that off with the fact that most of our Land Rovers and Range Rovers came with very mediocre gas engines here in the US, and so a lot of them blew head gaskets, thus forth, leaving us with a plethora of these LT230 cases. So if Matt needs something, he can find it. And I'm gonna go over a few other benefits of why I chose this case as one of our cases for this rig. But let's go ahead and start tearing it apart. So I know that we're not gonna have a V8 in front of this thing, and you're like, well, why did you go with such a big transfer case if you don't have a V8? And the reason is because towing. A Samurai case is smaller. It's contractually just about I don't know, quarter size smaller. This is probably a third bigger, I don't know, quarter bigger. A Samurai transfer case, I mean, they break sometimes on Samurai guys with Samurai stuff. They're strong. I've had really good luck with mine. I got a set in mine, but this is much stronger. And if with a 4-cylinder in front of it, pulling the weight of a razor, another couple thousand pounds behind it, we have a lot of strength. Also, we just dumped a bunch of weight getting rid of the emergency brake or hand brake. Now what I have is this perfect circle if I need to make a transfer case mount, like a rear pinion or rear yoke support, or I even have these 4 bolt holes that I can make a ring that's on a support for the back of this case. So that I can do support there, I can even do support here on this ring. There's a lot of options, yet it still has the same style center rail like a Dana 300 or a 205, which we know both those cases are pretty strong for their application. Bam. Yet both the Dana 300 and the MP 205, like I said, are cast steel cases and quite a bit heavier than an aluminum case. Spins good. All right, now I gotta be honest with you guys, I have never tore one of these transfer cases apart. I understand how they work, and they're very similar to the 300, the 205, but I have honestly never taken one apart. And one of the things that they do have, this section here, is the shifter for your differential. There is a actual differential in here inside this unit. This would slide out, but maybe it doesn't yet. I probably need to take the center pin out, and we'll take this lower plate off and see what we got. But I like how beefy that is. That is legit beef. Ugh, that's tight. Shazam.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that was clever.
I did it. Got it.
That was super clever. You see that? You put that thingy in it.
Still don't. Oh, got to get this out.
Ah.
I was wondering where I was like, man, there's got to be a detent spring in here somewhere. Okay, it's a 5.5. 5.5 millimeter in American is 7/32. We're close enough anyway. Just like a 205 or a Dana 300, there should be a ball and a detent spring. So there we go. Now this should come out. Got it.
Go. Look at that. Gears, gears,
Look at that.
gears.
Brass. That's neat. Cool. All right. One set. Yep. Look who came to say hi. Say hi, Sully. Say hi, Sully. Come up here, say hi. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Huh. He says, yeah. I'm a big boy. I'm a big boy.
Empty.
So if you guys know me, then it's not hoarding if your stuff is cool. I dug up some stuff that I keep that I have stored in here. Number one, a spare Samurai transfer case. Number two, a Dana 300 transfer case housing. In the rock crawling world, most of you guys know these as the cases that break. Don't know why, but they like to split. Then you end up getting like a behemoth case or something like that, like I put in my Samurai buggy, which ironically enough, they have an Apex chassis that's cast aluminum. No different than like an Atlas transfer case that is cast aluminum. Having this be cast aluminum doesn't necessarily make it weaker. So I want to stress that right now. Secondly, if you look at the sizes, this is obviously the smallest case in the group, but we've already established, like, if you look at this front output, I mean, it literally is the size of my pinky. Works great for rock crawling. I use them a lot in rock crawling. I don't think it's gonna be strong enough for towing. But you can see the size difference. The 300 is obviously larger. If we set the 300 on here, it is basically the same size. So the LT230 is obviously thicker, but the case sizes are basically exactly the same. So you're getting Dana 300 size, but you're getting strength that can hold up to V8 power. Now to the next question you guys are probably asking. We know a Samurai transfer case is divorced, so you just put a little U-joint or a drive shaft to it, and it can bolt up to anywhere, anything, any place in the rig. That's what makes them nice in Samurai. Most people set up Dana 300s to be a round 6 23 spline. Now, like I said, they make an adapter for these to go to the Chevy 4L60s, and that's great. We're not running a Chevy 4L60, we're running a TH180, quite a bit smaller. So we have to get creative. One of the things that I said is great about this case that most of us Americans don't know is the aftermarket world, and they make a divorce kit for these with this bad boy. So we can slide this in, bam, and now on the front output, which is the other side actually, but the front output will now have a yoke. So we'll have yoke and then yoke and yoke. What I do like about this as well is it's offset to the passenger side for your front and rear drive shafts, just like a Samurai transfer case. Meaning this case should sit like that. So your drive shafts fit in the same place. That rig is designed to have drive shafts both come out on the passenger side, front and rear. That should make this case easy to mount because we can put it wherever we want in our system because we can put a drive shaft in between. That was a lot of talking. I hope that all made sense. I think it did. I think you guys understand where I'm coming with this. And there's even a few more things that I think are even cooler about this case. Let's go ahead and get this gear set in and then I'll tell you about those. The trick with this is you just slide in where this would normally be your transmission shaft, and it has a bolt and shim. So I'm just gonna go ahead and red Loctite this and then bolt it in, and then now it'll become a permanent part of this gear set. Ta-da! And because these cases are so popular in the rest of the world, this rebuild kit was actually really cheap, or reseal kit, whatever you want to call it. Also, for those that are saying, well, you have to buy that adapter, well, I'd have to buy an adapter for any situation in this build. So this one, I want to say was like 200 bucks. So it's still way down there in the affordability level for an adapter to do whatever you want. I actually think that's super cool because how many two-wheel drive trucks do you want to make four-wheel drive? And you could do it with one of these cases, put a couple $100 into it, and you'd have a pretty sick T-case. I don't know, budget. So, what I would need to do is put the seals in. So I got some oil soluble grease. I'm just putting it on these original bearings because I don't want it to have a dry start. It shouldn't, because once we filled up with gear oil, it should have oil on all the bearings. But this shim right here, this is a spacer to preload these bearings. So you want to make sure you keep it in this gear set. That way, once you have the pin in, they stay preloaded. I know I already told you guys about the 3.32 to 1 gears, basically 3 to 1 gears, we'll just say. And that's Matt's ideal gear set. He tells me that all the time for his transfer cases. He's like, I wish I had a 3 to 1 because it's great for the sand dunes. It's not too low. He feels like 4 to 1's too low, but 2 to 1 is not low enough. So that's why I find this low range ideal. What I didn't talk about is the high range. So the high range comes factory with a 1.2 to 1 gear reduction, meaning what's going in spins 1.2 times before it comes out for 1 rotation on the outside. So we actually already get a little bit of high range gear reduction with this T-case. And that's where it gets interesting, and that's why I chose this case, because we really don't know what we're gonna need for high range. Now, like I said, you guys have already figured it out probably. There is gonna be another case in front of this one, so we're gonna have plenty of low range options. But the high range, we don't know if it's gonna be low enough to drive, or it might be too low. And the most amazing thing about this case, which I don't think any other case I've ever seen has this, it has 7 different high range gear reductions that don't affect anything else in the low range. It's all right here in this set of gears. From a 0.9 to 1, which means then you're gonna even go faster on the highway because you're gonna have a much higher gear. It's like, that's the opposite of gear reduction. It's like an overdrive. Basically in increments of tenths, all the way down to a 1.67 to 1 gear reduction in your high range if we need it. So if we have to do that, we can get those gear sets, get them shipped, and I can put them in this gear case pretty easily. I think that's what makes this case not only completely worthy of a tow truck, but worthy of Samurai replacement, because they're the only other ones I know that you get like a high range gear reduction with your low range gears and things like that. So that is super, super cool. Like, you don't have to buy your 3 to 1 gears like you do with your 205s. Comes with a new O-ring. That should be that one. Make sure everything's good there. Bam. All right. So this plate keeps this post from turning. There's a flat spot here on this pin and a flat spot on this plate. And then when you put your nut back on, you have a notch down here. You can see we can reuse this, but there's a notch here that you kick this in, and that's like a lock washer or a lock nut for it. Yep. Welcome to my contraption. I need to get into this differential right here. Yes, there's a differential inside the T-case, and I need to pull this bearing. The bearing's pressed on, and I don't want to have to pull the race out, so I got just one of these case splitters It's not messing up the case of the bearing. I'm underneath, so that's good. And then I use my swag dimple dies here to see if it works. We'll find out. Looks like it's working.
Oh.
I just might run out of bolt.
There's nuts down there.
It's getting a little nutty. Ooh, that's sketchy. Extra sketchy. Maybe it's off because that just spun out, so it's got to be. Yep, there it is.
Yay!
All right. Once again, swag dimple dies for the win. I seem to use them more for everything except dimple dies, but I use them. Now look at that. All right, so if you've ever been inside of an all-wheel drive transfer case, there's basically this exact setup, which is just a differential like what you have in your axles, and it's open. So that what that does is that puts the pressure to the tire that's slipping, right? Basically the tire that spins easiest is where it's gonna put your torque. Now, what I wanted to do was Ashcroft makes a limited slip for this setup. So you remove these open differentials and you put in a limited slip, which then forces the pressure to whatever side you wanna do it. So if I had a cutting brake going to the rear end and I was holding it tight, it's gonna force all that pressure to the front end and make a front dig. Now, I've had some of you people ask, and yes, I called Matt and asked him what he thought about that, and he was more prone, he's like, I really just want it like a normal T-case where I have 2 high, 4 low, things like that. So that's what we're gonna end up doing. I'm gonna take that out and put in an orb of traction, or a spool, which we have right here. And what this is gonna do is just replace all those and put that in. So that's gonna allow us to have 2 high, 2 low, 4 high, and 4 low. So he's gonna have the option, if he needs just that extra gearing, he can put it in 2 low without having to lock in the front end. The downside is now you don't have that front dig capability. But like I said, I talked to the professional. This is his rig. He's the recovery guy. He wants it like this. So we're gonna do it like this. And these should, this cross pin should just come out, but there we go. There it is. All right, so this little mini spool comes with this little bearing pack. So you still gotta use this side gear and you set that back in, and this is your front output. So this is gonna stay free so you can be in 2-wheel drive, and then when you put it in 4-wheel drive, it locks it in down here. But it's just a little 3-piece bearing set, and it's made in the Czech Republic, and I can't say that name without getting demonetized. So
Oh no.
I'll just let you read the box, but I don't know. I guess that's the brand they have there. And then it sits right inside of that. There's like a little brass shim that's for the back side of this. Make sure you get that out because that will not fit on this. There it is. Now we just got to button it up. I'm going to clean these up a little bit. Put Loctite on them. I didn't look the torque spec up, but this is a 10mm bolt. It's an 8.8, should be 60 foot-pounds, so that's just what I'm gonna go with. All right, so one of the things that I get grief for all the time, every single time I do a set of gears, is you put that thing on, if the race sticks up, then I use another race and I press it down. Now let me show you what I just pressed this down with. A piece of exhaust pipe. It's literally got that much pressure on it. It's not much. So when I use a race to press the race on to push it down, we are fine. It's not gonna ruin the bearing. If I can press it on with this, that means that it's not that much pressure. It's just enough where you can't do it by hand. That's all it is. That's Colt's bearing rant of the video. All right, now this is kind of tricky because you have to have the shift rail in here at the same time, but you just got to get them both in. They're home. Get in your home. All right, we got it in. We got our shift rail in at the same time. It goes in this hole. Now we can go ahead and put this jam nut on. Now I'm not gonna get it crazy tight yet, but this is what sets the preload on our bearings. But we gotta put our front end on to set this up. It's important to tighten this nut up to set the preload on both the front and rear bearings, and you can really just get it by feel, but all I did was go back to the original notch that was in there from the factory and then added that notch back into the lock nut. All right, we're getting closer together, but this head unit here that I have in there is way nastier than my pressure washer even had a chance for. So I'm gonna let that soak tonight, and then we'll hit it first thing in the morning because we haven't had dinner and look at the darkness. So we're gonna eat dinner. We'll see you guys in the morning. Bam, new day. This was soaking all night. I do still need to clean on it a little more. So let's start cleaning. All right, letting that sit in there all night, it is still just getting nasty. So I'm gonna let it soak a little more, let this run on it for a while, see if we can get it cleaned up a little better. And while that's happening, I wanna run in town and get some new bolts, because if you guys remember, the back side of this had like 3 different kinds of bolts, and I want them to all be the same. So, to the bolt store. So, curiosity, what's that metric? Prototype bit? Wow. Surprisingly. That only thing that's going to be on the thing. Right. Hey, it was good to see you guys. Have a good afternoon.
Bye. Got it.
Got it. Got a new plug too. This thing has through-hole bolts, which means that if I just were to seal it up, it'd probably leak through the threads. So I like to put a little bit of RTV on the threads. And that way, when it's spun up, it has that little bit extra chance of not leaking. So I already put a new seal in here, but I do like to go ahead and put some grease, not only on the seal, but on any yoke that I'm getting ready to stab into a seal. That way it just guarantees a little bit extra layer of protection. We got our divorce slip yoke on here now, and I went ahead and spun it in 4 low. As you can see, we got 3 turns out of this one to 1 turn out of that. So 3.32 turns here that's coming from your engine is just 1 rotation here at the end on transfer case. That's really low out of the box. Like if you guys remember Matt's record, they actually took out the 1.96 205 gears and put in the 3-to-1 Novak gears to get that lower gear ratio. And we actually have lower gears than that in a stock case. I don't know, I think that's pretty cool. Also, these are the bolts I wanted to change. I just wanted to get flange bolts that are all the same, so I didn't have different bolts here, and that has to do with how these are mounted. There's like a post for some other mounts and stuff, but we don't want any of that. So kind of the same deal. When I put these in, I'm gonna go ahead and put RTV on them as well. So this is the high and low range shifter. If I wanted to pull this whole rod out, I'd have to take the shifter part out. This just goes back and forth like that to shift it. And there's an O-ring right here. The O-ring doesn't look bad. I just decided I'm gonna put in some red grease. That way it should seal up. This won't dissolve in oil, and it shouldn't because it's sealed up on this end. If it does leak, this is a very easy part of the T-case to get to. So I don't think it will, but I just don't want to go to the trouble of taking all this apart just to put in a little O-ring, if we don't have to. So I know that these seals are probably designed to not use RTV, but I'm one of those guys that'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. And this is like my extra security, because this stuff seems to be the bomb.com. I rolled the transfer case up just so you can see what's going on. Here's your four-wheel drive in action. This is low range. So this is actually catching everything, but this is your four-wheel low. So that shifter's that. This shifter right here is what you would lock your all-wheel drive in with, but since we deleted that, this is gonna be our 2 high and 4 high. The nice thing about this one is we can put this on a cable pretty easily. Once I get that to engage. All right, well, I just learned something about these cases. This shift collar, you can be out one tooth. So only one, so you got a 50-50 chance of getting it right. I know you can't really see it in there, but that shift collar is in line with these teeth right here. Instead of being where it falls in between those teeth, it's falling into the teeth. So I gotta run into town, see if I can get another output seal, because I'm gonna have to tear this output seal out, pull the C-clip out, pull the bearing out, pull the shaft out, and then realign everything, I think. I hope that's the way I can do it and I don't have to tear all of this back out, because trying to line it up and all that really wasn't working so well, obviously. But if that was working right, then we would have had a free spool here, and then everything would have been from just here back. Then you just have your input and your 2-wheel low. So then you'd have high and low in 2-wheel drive. Oh.
Hey, baby. Why do you have to bring an extra pair of socks when you play golf?
In case you get a hole in one?
Yay! He got it.
So where I had the 50-50 chance is these teeth right here on this shaft. And if you look in here, they need to sit oblong to these teeth. So where this gap is where they need to sit. Mine were sitting right in line with this collar. And once it's in, it's in. It doesn't change the direction. So I just needed to be smarter about that. I didn't know, but we know now. And now you know.
And knowing is half the battle.
Oh yeah, look at that. Shifted right over to it. Much better. I just had to be smarter than what I was working with. So now you can see that with that collar the way it is, now it only moves this tooth. Which means now, when this one spins, it's spinning only the rear output, which we haven't connected yet. So now that one's spinning, and the top one won't. The top one will stay. I mean, it might have a little bit of flotation through the gears, but it is not actually putting torsion to that gear. Clip back in, and it is back in. All right, now in this lower case, these outside bolts are sealed in, so you really don't have to worry about it, but these two bolts go all the way through. So once again, I'm gonna put just a little bit of RTV on there, and that helps guarantee it won't leak. Okay, so this drain plug is right here. The nice thing about this drain, it did come with a new brass O-ring, but it's actually magnetized here too. So if for some reason things got weird, you'd be able to just check it right there. The original fill plug was pretty beat up. I mean, it came out no problem, but I didn't like it, so at J-Lou I went ahead and got another plug as well. And that way, don't have to worry about it. All right, so I know you guys are seeing these holes here where that drum brake was set up, but these don't go all the way through, so we don't have to worry about them leaking. But there is one thing we will have to do, and that is right here. So these factory mounts here do go through for the transmission. When you mount the transmission, since we deleted the transmission, we will have to go ahead and just get some 10mm by 1.5 bolts. We can just get some short ones, RTV them up, and put them in there and there. These are the original bolts for the mount if you had this transfer case mounted. And the nice part about that is that we can reuse that for our transfer case mount. So we can create a mount off of these factory holes, plate to go on that side, and then we have this already for this side. So this transfer case will get mounted up very, very nice. And you got to remember here, you know, it looks bigger now, but the Dana 300 doesn't have its inputs and outputs on it either, which would make it real equivalent in size. It's still a little bit bigger than our Samurai transfer case, but I wanted to give you guys a little perspective on it. I think we got one solid setup that's going to be strong, it's got low gears, and we can do high range gear reduction options if we need to down the road for that thing. And as long as they're not a hardcore Land Rover guy, because they probably know these secrets, you can actually pick these up pretty reasonable. So we are slowly but surely getting all of our parts together. Now we still have a front case that I haven't told you guys about yet, and that will be in a future video, but we got to hook transmission and engine, transfer cases, all that stuff's gonna go in here. We got our axles, so it's getting closer every minute to start putting this thing together. I'm getting excited about that. I appreciate you guys watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something. We'll see you next time.
Please make sure to like and subscribe.
Thank you.